You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts.
Right, Black and White Sports supporters. Well, my God, what a debacle this Aces versus Indiana Fever game turned out to be. It was an utter nightmare.
This no backbone, no grit, no determination. That's not just fan talk, that's straight from the commentators on Black and White Sports. After the Indiana Fever's latest collapse against the Vegas Aces, how did a talent-laden Fever fold a 10-point lead? The answer has fans and analysts all pointing fingers at one-person head coach Stephanie White. Were breaking down the coaching decisions or a total lack of adjustments that let this game slip away. Fans on social media and even at the arena are already chanting for White to be fired after these brutal second-half meltdowns of frustration is reaching a fever pitch, and the spotlight is hotter than
off ball. We need to run a motion offense, so when the defense takes away what Caitlin Clark does best, we have other players that can still perform, so when she does have bad games, we're not completely dead in the water. I think that is the best way to move forward with this Indiana Fever team. Wait, what'd you say? Wait, what? Did you just tell me that Stephanie White went on an interview tour this whole entire offseason saying exactly that? Did you just tell me Stephanie White went on an interview? So how come when Caitlin Clark has a bad game, this team looks like absolute dog shit?
Anytime Clark isn't playing or has an off night, the Fever struggle. With each loss, more fans are pointing fingers at Coach Stephanie White. The criticism goes beyond one game. It's about a clear pattern. The Fever start strong, but fall apart once the opponent adjusts. Against the Aces, they led by 10 at halftime. Then collapse of fans. It's not just the losses, it's knowing they didn't have
a spade a spade. The Indiana Fever lost 89-81 running bullshit Stephanie White offense.
So why is the backlash against White so intense? Right now, the A's game didn't just sting, it exposed every coaching flaw fans have been talking about. In the first half, things actually looked promising. Aaliyah Boston were working the pick and roll with Caitlin Clark, and the offense had some real
minutes of the game. It was unbelievable. It was absolutely unbelievable. The Aaliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark pick and roll was fantastic. Aaliyah Boston had 18 first half points. And in the third quarter, they started off going to the CC Aaliyah Boston pick and roll.
Halftime hit. Becky Hammond switched up her strategy. She put her team in a switching defense that completely neutralized Boston's slip screens. Suddenly, the Fever's main weapon was gone. White, on the other hand, left her scheme unchanged. The result, the Fever's offense just stalled out. Instead of adapting, they went away from what was working and started forcing isolation plays. The ball stopped moving, and the players looked like they had no answer.
But Ben, the first quarter, folks, let me tell you this right here. Aaliyah Boston had 18 points in the first half. Do you know what happened at halftime? Becky Hammond said, okay, guys, I think I know what they're doing. Aaliyah Boston is just going to slip every screen and get wide open layups. She's just going to slip every screen and get wide open layups. She's just going to slip every screen and get wide open layups. This is what we're going to do. We're just going to switch. Easy money. We're going to switch, and if she gets the ball and she beats us one-on-one, she gets the ball and she beats us one-on-one.
And just notice they started dissecting every decision. Comments online point out the lack of offensive structure, with one fan saying, I don't know what the hell offense she was running. The frustration wasn't just about the result. It was about the process. The Fever's late game sets became so forecastable that the Aces knew exactly where to trap Clark. There were no off-ball double screens to free her up, no creative counters to the A's adjustments. It was the same look over and over, even as the defense closed.
The bigs on this team consistently set screens to get themselves open every single time. They don't know how to set a screen to actually force the defense to react to Caitlin Clark.
The contract in Hammond couldn't have been clearer. While Hammond made targeted adjustments, doubling Boston in the post and sending extra pressure at Clark, White seemed stuck. She didn't shift her rotations or call new sets to get her stars open. That lack of flexibility is what's driving fans up the wall. They're not just mad about losing, they're mad about losing the same way again and again, with no sign that the coaching staff is learning or evolving.
Crossed makes no adjustments. Stephanie White, arms crossed, runs nonsensical garbage all game long. I don't even think I saw anything that resembled an Indiana Fever team that I enjoyed watching. From last year, from some games this year, I didn't see any of that transpire at all throughout this game.
The criticism isn't just noise, it's a real sense of urgency. Fans are asking, how can this team reach its potential if the coach won't adapt? Is White actually holding the Fever back from taking the next step? When you see talented players struggle, in crunch time, it's easy to blame the person making the decisions. And right now, a lot of people think White's choices are costing the Fever their season. For a young team with so much potential. Every wasted opportunity hurts more than mistakes aren't. Just frustrating. They feel like they're setting the franchise back. That's why the calls for change are getting louder, and the spotlight on White is only getting
collapsed against bad teams like the Aces. His team has collapsed against G League teams like the Golden State Valkyries. This team has no backbone. This team has no grit. This team has no determination. This team has no effort.
Next, explore how these tactical errors are directly hampering Caitlin Clark's performance. When Caitlin Clark landed in Indiana, it felt like the entire franchise had turned a corner. She was supposed to change everything, finally give the Fever a superstar who could pull them out of the basement and put them on the map. Instead, the story right now is about wasted potential. You look at her stat line lately, and it jumps out. Clark's shot, just 1 for 10 from deep against the Aces, and her long range shot has dipped since her early season injury. She recorded 8 turnovers in that loss, and you can see the fatigue start to show. She was forced to create every look herself, fighting through defenders with barely any help from the
range. Guys, she's 1 of her last 17 from three-point range. That's why I brought up the quad injury again. Kelsey Mitchell tried 8 of 13. By the way, she was wide ass open with about 30 seconds left for a 3. Nobody threw her the ball, and I mean she was wide open. 20 points, 19 ultimately for Caitlin Clark. It was a double-double for Clark, too. They just could not hang on.
This isn't the Clark fans watch dominate in college. She's stuck in an offense that doesn't play to her strengths. The game plan let her try to make something out of nothing over. And over there are barely any design plays to get her open. One analyst observed that Witt's offense lacks the off-ball screens and movement that Clark thrived on in college. That's not just a missed opportunity. It's a recipe for burning out your best player instead of running her off double screens or giving her creative sets to shake. Defenders, the Fever, keep rolling out isolation after isolation. It's almost like they're daring defenses to trap her and then acting surprised when she's forced into bad shots or turn
the defense to react to Caitlin Clark. They slip screens to get themselves open every single time. Becky Hammond knows that, so she says, just switch. AB is not really setting a real screen. Just switch. Just switch, and we'll come over the top and help out on defense when they toss it into AB.
The frustration on the court. Clark's moments of magic are still there, but they're buried under 4 shots and constant pressure. Fans and analysts are asking the same question. Why isn't the coaching staff doing more to help her? According to Game Analysis, the Clark-Boston pick and roll generated multiple first-half scores, but vanished after halftime adjustments. That play was working, but after the break, it disappeared completely.
Kalia Boston in the first half, once again, had the Stockton Malone old school going. I mean, Caitlin Clark is the best passer in the league, and at times she reminds me of the best of Bird, Jason Kidd, Chris Paul, John Stockton, all the legends, right?
The offense turned stagnant, and Clark was left to dribble into traffic, while Boston stood waiting for a pass that never came. It's not just Clark who's suffering. Aaliyah Boston is another victim of this system. Early in games, she and Clark look like a real duo, but once the other team adjusts, the Fever stop running the actions that work. Boston ends up stranded, and Clark has to force up contested jumpers. The system just doesn't support their strengths, and it shows up in the box score and in the body language on the floor.
And in the third quarter, they started off going to the CC Aaliyah Boston pick and roll as well. And they just went away from it. They went away from the pick and roll because they wanted to go to more Lexi Hull handoffs with Natasha Howard. Like, idiotic. It's idiotic. Like, regardless of how the game's played. Like, every single player on the floor is at blame for that game.
The result, Clark is being asked to do everything, and the mistakes keep piling up. Those 3 straight turnovers in the fourth quarter against the Aces weren't just mental errors. They were a product of fatigue, poor spacing, and a lack of help from the offense. Fans are calling out the coaching staff, saying the system is letting Clark down there. Right, she's in a slump, but it's not just on her. The scheme isn't giving her the tools to succeed.
That the that the two-man game between Clark and Aaliyah Boston always, and I do mean always, disappears in the second half. It did it again today. They went completely away from it. And Caitlin Clark, by and large, and I don't know if this is Stephanie White channeling her inner Christie sides.
In short, White's scheme has stripped away the movement and support that made Clark elite, leaving her to battle double teams alone. The Fever are at a crossroads, and the pressure to turn things around is only getting heavier. So what actually needs to change for the Fever to save this season? The conversation isn't just about frustration anymore. It's about survival. Indiana's sitting at 67, but with the talent on this roster hovering around 500 isn't enough. Fans and analysts are demanding real adjustments, and the spotlight is squarely on the coaching staff to make it happen.